When I woke up at midnight, I caught my straight best friend doing something unexpected. True gay story. This is a heartfelt gay love story about friendship, fear, and the courage to be truly known. If this story speaks to your heart, stay with me till the end. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon so these stories can keep finding the people who need them. Theo Bennett had known Marcus Cole since they were 7 years old. Back when friendship meant trading snacks at lunch and racing bikes down Miller Street until the streetlights came on. 14 years later, that friendship was the one constant thing in a life that had otherwise changed shape a dozen times over. They were 22 now, 1 week from college graduation, and Marcus had insisted on one last camping trip before the world scattered them in different directions. Theo to a job in the city, Marcus to grad school 3 states away. 4 years of college and we never once went camping together, Marcus said, tossing a duffel bag into the back of his truck. That's basically a crime, Bennett. We're not exactly outdoorsmen, Cole, Theo pointed out, though he was already grabbing his own bag, unable to say no. He'd never once been able to say no to Marcus. That was, in fact, part of the problem. They drove 3 hours north to the mountains, windows down, an old playlist from freshman year filling the silence between conversations about nothing and everything. Marcus's plans for grad school. Theo's nerves about his new job. The easy shorthand of 2 people who'd spent half their lives learning each other's rhythms. Theo had never told Marcus the truth. Not in freshman year when he first realized his feelings ran deeper than friendship. Not sophomore year, when Marcus dated Claire for 6 months and Theo smiled through every double date, quietly rearranging his own heart to make room for the ache of it. Not junior year, not senior year, not any of the 400 nights they'd stayed up late in Marcus's dorm room talking about everything except the one thing that mattered most. Marcus was straight. Marcus had always been straight, as far as Theo knew. Girlfriends since high school, easy charm with every woman who crossed his path. Never once a flicker of anything that suggested otherwise. So Theo kept the truth folded small inside himself, the way you keep something fragile you're afraid to break by looking at it too closely. They set up camp at the edge of a quiet lake, tent pitched beneath a canopy of pines, the kind of silence around them that only existed miles from anywhere else. The fire crackled low as the sun went down, painting the water gold, then pink, then a deep, star-scattered blue. Feels like we're the only 2 people in the world out here, Marcus said, stretched out on a log with his hands behind his head, staring up at a sky thick with stars neither of them ever saw back in the city. Don't get sentimental on me, Cole, Theo said, though his chest ached with exactly that. Marcus grinned, firelight flickering across his face. Little late for that. We're graduating in a week. I'm allowed 1 sentimental night. They talked until the fire burned low, about childhood summers, about the reckless stupid things they'd survived together, about the strange, quiet fear of growing up and drifting apart the way old friends sometimes did without meaning to. We won't drift, Marcus said firmly, like he could will it into truth. Not us. Theo wanted so badly to believe him. If you think you know where this story is headed, stay close, because when I woke up at midnight, I caught my straight best friend doing something unexpected is about to take a turn nobody saw coming, including the 2 people at the center of it. Theo woke a little after midnight to an empty sleeping bag beside him and the soft, distant crackle of a fire that shouldn't still be burning. He lay still for a moment, listening. Crickets, wind moving gently through the pines. And beneath it, so quiet he almost missed it. A voice. Marcus's voice. Theo unzipped the tent slowly, careful not to make a sound, and stepped out into the cold night air. The fire had been rebuilt, flames low and steady, and Marcus sat cross-legged in front of it. A small notebook open on his knee, talking softly to no one, to himself or to the fire, or to the version of himself he only let out at midnight when he thought the world was asleep. And I don't know how to say it, Marcus was murmuring, voice raw in a way Theo had never heard from him before. I don't know how to say it without losing everything. He doesn't even know. For years, and he doesn't even... Marcus's voice cracked. He pressed the heel of his hand against his eyes. Theo's heart pounded so hard he was certain the whole forest could hear it. He should step back. He should give Marcus this privacy, whatever this was. But his feet wouldn't move. A twig snapped beneath his shoe. Marcus's head shot up, eyes wide and startled in the firelight, notebook snapping shut like a trap. Theo. I'm sorry, Theo said quickly, hands raised. I woke up and you were gone. I didn't mean to. How much did you hear? Marcus's voice was tight, panicked in a way Theo had genuinely never heard from him in 14 years of friendship. Theo's mouth went dry. Enough to know something's wrong. Marcus, what's going on? Marcus stared at him for a long moment, firelight dancing across a face caught somewhere between terror and exhaustion. The look of someone who has been holding something so long they've forgotten what it feels like to set it down. Nothing, Marcus said finally, voice unsteady. Go back to bed, Theo. It's nothing. But his hands, Theo noticed, were shaking. Neither of them slept the rest of that night. Theo lay in his sleeping bag, staring at the tent ceiling, replaying the fragments he'd caught. He doesn't even know. Turning them over and over, searching for a meaning that made sense. He thought of Claire and the girlfriend before her and the one before that. He thought of every conversation where Marcus had talked easily, casually about women and wondered, for the first time in 14 years, if any of it had been entirely true, or if some of it had been performance, the way Theo's own smiles at those double dates had been performance too. By morning, Marcus was quieter than Theo had ever seen him. He packed up the campsite with brisk, efficient movements, avoiding eye contact, answering questions in clipped, careful sentences. Marcus. Theo finally caught his arm as they loaded the truck. Talk to me. Whatever it is, you can tell me. We've never had secrets before. Something flickered across Marcus's face. Grief, maybe, or fear, or some tangled combination of both. That's not true, he said quietly. I've had exactly one secret in 14 years, Theo, and it's the only one that's ever mattered. Then tell me. Marcus shook his head, jaw tight. Not yet. I'm not ready. The drive home was 3 hours of silence neither of them knew how to break. For the next week, Marcus pulled away in small, careful increments. Cancelled plans, shorter texts, a distance that felt less like anger and more like fear. Theo tried everything he knew. He showed up at Marcus's apartment with takeout from their favorite place. He left voicemails that went unanswered for hours, then days. He told himself it was just pre-graduation stress, senior year exhaustion, anything other than the truth sitting heavy and unspoken between them since that night at the lake. Graduation came and went in a blur of caps and gowns and proud, tearful parents. Marcus and Theo posed for photos together like nothing had changed, smiles fixed carefully in place. For years of friendship compressed into a single frozen image that neither of them quite recognized anymore. Afterward, in the parking lot, surrounded by celebrating families, Marcus finally spoke. Can we talk? Tonight. Just us. Theo's chest tightened. Yeah, of course. If your heart just skipped a beat, you're not alone. Because tonight is the night everything either falls apart or finally makes sense. Stay with us. They met at their old spot. The same overlook where they'd celebrated 100 smaller milestones over the years. City lights spread out below them like scattered stars. The kind of view that had witnessed every important conversation of their friendship. Marcus stood at the railing for a long time before he spoke, hands gripping the metal like he needed it to stay upright. I've been writing in that notebook since sophomore year, he said finally, voice barely above the wind. Every time I couldn't say something out loud, I wrote it down instead. It was easier that way, safer. Theo waited, heart hammering. That night at the lake, Marcus continued, I wasn't talking to myself. I was talking to you. I've been writing letters to you for 2 years that I never had the courage to give you. He let out a shaky breath. I'm not straight, Theo. I don't think I ever really was. I just didn't know how to be anything else. Not with you standing right there, being the person I was too scared to lose. Theo's breath caught, his whole body going still. Marcus, I dated Claire because it was easier than sitting with what I actually felt. Marcus pressed on, words tumbling out now like a dam finally breaking. Easier than looking at my best friend every single day and wondering what it would cost me to tell him the truth. I told myself if I just waited long enough, it would fade. It never faded. For years, Theo. For years, and it only ever got worse. Worse? Theo's voice trembled. Stronger, Marcus corrected, voice cracking. It only ever got stronger. And I was so scared of losing you, of losing this whatever we are, that I decided it was better to say nothing at all. Better to have half of you than none of you. The wind moved between them, carrying the quiet, breathless weight of 14 years, suddenly rearranging themselves into a different shape. You should have told me, Theo whispered. Marcus's face crumpled. I know. I'm sorry. Marcus. Theo stepped closer, voice gentle now, urgent. You should have told me because I've been in love with you since freshman year. Marcus went very still. What? I sat through every one of your relationships smiling because I loved you too much to make you choose, Theo said, his own voice breaking now. I told myself the same story you did, that it was safer to say nothing, that having you as my best friend was better than risking everything and having nothing at all. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The city lights blurred at the edges of Theo's vision as his eyes filled. 14 years, Marcus said, half laughing, half crying, disbelief written across every line of his face. 14 years, and we were both just scared. Of each other. Of this. I'm not scared anymore, Theo whispered. Marcus closed the distance between them slowly, giving Theo every chance to step back the way he had given him the chance at the overlook railing. Theo didn't move away. He reached up instead, gently, resting his palm against Marcus's jaw the way he'd imagined doing 100 times over the years without ever letting himself believe it was possible. Can I kiss you? Marcus asked, voice trembling, still half afraid this was some fragile dream he'd wake from. You should have asked that 4 years ago, Theo said softly, smiling through tears. Their first kiss happened right there at the overlook, city lights spread beneath them. 14 years of friendship folding quietly into something new and impossibly tender. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was slow and careful and full of every unspoken thing they'd both been carrying alone for far too long. When they finally pulled back, foreheads resting together, both of them breathless, Marcus laughed softly. I brought the notebook, he admitted, pulling a worn, battered book from his jacket pocket. I was going to burn it that night at the lake. Get rid of the evidence, pretend none of it ever happened. I couldn't do it. Read me one, Theo whispered. Just one. Marcus's hands shook slightly as he opened to a random page, cheeks flushing in the streetlight. He read softly, voice unsteady. Theo laughed today at something stupid I said, and I swear the whole world went quiet around it. I don't know how to tell him that loving him feels less like falling and more like coming home to somewhere I've always belonged. I don't know how to tell him anything at all. Theo's eyes filled completely now, tears slipping free without permission. You've been writing that for 2 years? Every week, Marcus admitted. Sometimes twice. I can't believe I almost let you leave for grad school without knowing any of this. Marcus took his hand, lacing their fingers together like he'd been waiting his whole life for permission he'd finally given himself. You're not getting rid of me that easily, Bennett. Not now. Coming up, grad school was 3 states away, and love this new had never been tested by distance. But this story isn't finished yet, and neither are they. The weeks after graduation moved fast and strange. Theo starting his new job in the city, Marcus preparing to leave for grad school on the opposite coast, both of them trying to figure out what 4 years of friendship turned suddenly, tenderly romantic was supposed to look like with 3,000 miles between them. We don't have to decide everything right now, Theo said one night, tangled together on Marcus's apartment couch during one of their last weeks in the same city. Marcus's fingers tracing slow, absent patterns against his arm. We have time. I don't want to lose this, Marcus admitted quietly. Not after finally being brave enough to have it. You won't? Theo promised, though even he could hear the uncertainty underneath it. The night before Marcus's flight, they lay awake talking until nearly dawn. Not about fear this time, but about plans. Video calls, visits during breaks. A future that felt fragile and uncertain but, for the first time, entirely honest. I used to think loving you quietly was safer than losing you completely, Marcus said, watching the ceiling fan turn slow shadows across the room. I don't believe that anymore. What do you believe now? Theo asked softly. Marcus turned to look at him, eyes soft in the dim light. That the version of us who tells the truth is worth fighting for. Even from 3,000 miles away. The distance was hard, in the ways distance always is. Time zones that never quite lined up. Video calls that ended too soon. The particular ache of missing someone whose laugh you used to hear every single day. Now rationed into scheduled phone calls between classes and work shifts. But they held on. Late-night calls that stretched for hours, the way their conversations always had, just with new tenderness folded into old rhythms. Care packages Theo mailed with Marcus's favorite snacks tucked inside handwritten notes. Marcus's notebook, no longer a place for secrets, but for letters he actually sent now, arriving in Theo's mailbox every few weeks like small, handwritten proof that distance hadn't dulled anything at all. 6 months in, Marcus flew back for winter break, and Theo met him at the airport with a handwritten sign. Half joke, half genuine. That simply read "Welcome home, Cole." Marcus laughed so hard he nearly dropped his bag, then pulled Theo into a hug that lasted long enough to draw a few curious glances from passersby. Neither of them cared. "I missed you so much it was almost embarrassing," Marcus admitted against his shoulder. "Almost," Theo teased, though his own eyes were suspiciously bright. "I think it was fully embarrassing, actually. I made your mom promise to send me photos of you at Thanksgiving so I'd have proof you were eating enough." Marcus pulled back, grinning. "You talked to my mom?" "She loves me," Theo said simply. "Apparently she's been hoping for this since we were 16. Marcus laughed, delighted and disbelieving. 16? Her words, not mine. That winter break, surrounded by the same city that had witnessed 14 years of their friendship, they let themselves imagine a future out loud for the first time, where Marcus might finish grad school and come back, or where Theo might eventually follow him instead. 2 lives that had been quietly orbiting each other for over a decade finally choosing, on purpose, to move in the same direction. On New Year's Eve, standing on the same overlook where they'd first kissed, city lights bursting into fireworks below them, Marcus pulled the old, worn notebook from his coat pocket one final time. "Last entry," he said softly, flipping to a blank page. "Want to write it together?" Theo took the pen, smiling through the cold. "What do we say?" Marcus thought for a moment, fireworks painting soft color across his face. "The truth," he said simply. "We've gotten pretty good at that lately." Together, they wrote 3 simple lines beneath 14 years of unspoken longing finally given a voice. "We stopped being scared. We told the truth. We chose each other on purpose, for good." Marcus finished grad school and moved back to the city, taking a position close enough to Theo's apartment that they gave up the pretense of separate leases within 6 months. The old notebook sat on a shelf now in their shared apartment, retired from its original purpose, filled instead with ticket stubs and photographs and small, silly notes they left for each other on ordinary mornings. They still went camping every year at the same lake, same overlook, same fire pit where everything had finally cracked open into honesty. It became tradition. One final trip before the busy season started each spring. A quiet pilgrimage back to the place where 14 years of careful silence had finally given way to something real. "Remember when you caught me at midnight?" Marcus asked one evening, years later, firelight dancing across a face Theo had loved for what felt like his whole life. "Best accident of my life," Theo said, leaning against his shoulder, watching the same stars that had witnessed everything. "Mine too," Marcus murmured, pressing a soft kiss to his hair. "Took us long enough to stop being scared of something so good. When I woke up at midnight, I caught my straight best friend doing something unexpected isn't just a story about a secret discovered by accident. It's a story about how long we sometimes hide the truest parts of ourselves out of fear, and how much courage it takes to finally set that fear down, even after 14 years, even when it feels impossibly late. It's proof that some love stories don't begin with a spark. They begin quietly, patiently, in the space between 2 people who were brave enough, eventually, to stop pretending, and that healing journeys, chosen family, and coming out on your own timeline are always worth the wait. Should their story continue? Comment part 2 if you want more. Like if this made your heart race red heart. Subscribe for weekly gay romance stories.